So in this video, I'm going over our questions from our practice and review for quiz 1, which is on the factoring and solving our quadratics. So in question number 1, you're just factoring. So we're looking for here, notice how A is equal to 1, so we don't need to worry about looking for our GCF. So when we set up our table, what numbers multiply to get us 12, right? That last value here, our C, and add to get us 13. Well, looking and thinking about those factors are 12 and 1. 12 times 1 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So when we factor this, we have x plus 12 times x plus 1. Of course, how can we check our work? We can multiply our two binomials that we got. So x and our positive 12, x and positive 1. So here you have x squared. Here I have 12x, 1x or just x, and then 12. Then notice how here we have like terms. We have 12x plus another x making 13 x's. So we're left with x squared plus 13x plus 12. So now I know that it checks off and I have the correct answer. So looking at question number 2, notice how A is not 1, it's 3. So do we have a GCF? No. So we're going to go ahead then and go straight to our bottoms up, where we multiply the first to the last value, our A times C. So this becomes x squared minus 10x, but now minus 24. Now we go through and factor. So what numbers multiply to get us negative 24 and add to get us negative 10? So here, when thinking about those factors, you should get negative 12 and positive 2. So negative 12 times 2 is negative 24, and add those together, right? And you do get negative 10. So this becomes x minus 12 times x plus 2. But remember, with bottoms up, right? Are we done? Is this our final factored form? No, because remember, right? Whatever we multiplied by our A value, make sure to now divide. So here we divide by 3. Now I've got x minus 4 from 12 divided by 3, and then bottoms up, 3x plus 2. That's why the answer is A. Question number 3, same thing, right? Notice how A is 4, greater than 1. So do we have a GCF? Yes. Now, can I divide everything by 4? No, but everything is even. That means I can divide everything out by a common factor of 2 for when we're factoring here. So here I've got 2 times. Now I'm left with 2x squared from 4 divided by 2 minus 13x plus 15. Now, just to make sure that I've got everything factored, notice how none of our values here have a common factor. So it can continue factoring. However, A is greater than 1. So now we're going to continue with our bottoms up. So here I've got x squared minus 13x plus 30. But keep in mind, right, we still have that 2 on the outside because that was our common factor. Now we're going to continue with our factoring. What numbers multiply to get us 30 and add to get us negative 13? Now just remember here, right? We're multiplying to get a positive and adding to get a negative. That means both sides need to be negative because 2 negatives when multiplying make a positive. So in this case, you're going to have the factors of negative 10 and negative 3. When multiplied, they'll give you that positive 30, and add will get you negative 13. So here we've got 2 times x minus 10 times x minus 3. But again, are we done? No, right? Because of bottoms up, that A value, whatever we multiply by, now make sure to divide those two factors by 2. So here I've got 2 times x minus 5 times 2x minus 3 from bottoms up. Here, question number 4. Now notice in this one, see how we only have 2 terms here? We're missing our B. B is equal to 0. All right, so keep that in mind like our special case. Do we have a GCF? Yes. I can divide both by 3. So now here I've got 3 times x squared minus 25. Now notice inside the parentheses, we do have a difference of 2 squares. because the square root of x squared is just x, and the square root of 25 is 5. So we do have a difference of 2 squares. So this is 3 times x plus 5 times x minus 5. So that's why the answer is C. Question number 5. Now notice we're solving, right? Our equation is equal to 0, so we're good to go. Now notice how A is greater than 1. So do we have a GCF? Yes. I can factor out 6. So I'm going to factor out 6, and we're left with 6 times x squared from 6 divided by 6 is 1, right? Minus 6x plus 8 is equal to 0. So remember, we're solving for x now. Then now we can continue with our factoring. What numbers inside of our parentheses multiply to get us 8 and add to get us negative 6? Again, notice we're multiplying to get a positive and adding to get a negative. So both have to be negative factors. So we're left with negative 4 and negative 2. So here I've got 6 times x minus 4 times x minus 2 is equal to 0. So remember, now we're solving, right? So is 6 equal to 0? No. So 6 is not an answer because 6 just cancels out. It'll never equal 0. But we do have x minus 4 is equal to 0 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. When solving for x, we would add 4, right, to both sides, and x is equal to positive 4. We would add 2 to both sides, right? So x is equal to positive 2 as well. So question number 5, notice how again we are solving, and we do have to distribute because we have our parentheses here. So let's distribute our x first. So x times x is x squared, and x times 5, 5x is equal to 14. But now notice, right, our quadratics always have to equal what? 0. So first make sure to subtract 14 from both sides of the equation to have our quadratic equal to 0. Now, can we subtract the 14 from anything? No, because none are like terms. So here I've got x squared plus 5x, but now minus 14. Now we can go through and factor to solve. What numbers multiply, right, to get you negative 14 and add to get you 5? Positive 7 and negative 2. They're going to multiply to get you that negative, but add to get you positive 5. So x plus 7 times x minus 2. Now, is that our final answer? No, right? Because this is equal to 0. We are solving. X plus 7 is equal to 0, and x minus 2 is equal to 0. So when we're solving this, we end up with subtracting 7, right? So x is equal to negative 7. So I'm going to mark off A and B, right? Because they say both are positive 7. Then we would add 2 to both sides here, making positive 2. So that's why the answer is D. Question number 7. Notice how, again, our quadratic we're solving, but it has to equal 0. So first make sure to subtract 1. So here I've got 2x squared minus 9x plus 9. Now notice we could subtract, right, because of the like term, is equal to 0. Now we can solve. Notice how a is greater than 1. Do we have a common factor? No, there's no common factor that I can take out. So I'm going to go ahead now, and we're going to solve, but going bottoms up. So x squared minus 9x plus 18 is equal to 0. Now I can go through and factor. When numbers multiply to get you positive 18, but add to get you negative 9. Negative 6 and negative 3. Two negatives multiplying make a positive, and then adding to get you negative 9. So x minus 6 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. But are we done? No, because remember, right, whatever we multiply by, that a value, now divide by 2. So I've got x minus 3 times 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Now, because we're solving, right, this is x minus 3 is equal to 0, and 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So here we've got, when solving for x, add the 3 to both sides, right? So we've got x is equal to positive 3, then solve our two-step. Add 3 to both sides. You've got 2x is equal to 3, and then divide both sides by 2. Here you get x is equal to 3 over 2 as well. So looking at number 8, we could solve this different ways, right? So in number 8, I could show you first way could be, solving by square root method. So by solving square root method, right, we could treat this almost like it's a two-step. So here I'm going to add the 90, right, because we're subtracting, so add the 90 to both sides. Here I've got 2x squared is equal to 96. Then we're multiplying that x term by 2, so divide by 2. Now I've got x squared is equal to 48. Are we done though? No, right? Because it's x squared. So now what's the inverse? Square root. So now make sure here, x is equal to, now we can simplify the square root of 48. So thinking about our perfect squares, right? I've got 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36. Now I'm going to pause there because we're going to go too big because we're looking for factors of 48, right? I'm looking for what perfect square is a factor of 48. Well, 48 divided by 36, that's too big. And I know 25 doesn't go into 48 because that's our quarters. So 48 divided by 16, can that be divided evenly? Yes. So here I've got, when you divide 48 divided by 16, you get 3. So the square root of 16 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 48. Now what is the square root of 16? Positive and negative 4. So positive and negative 4, but then of course don't forget that radical 3. So x is equal to positive negative 4 radical 3. Now question number 9, same thing. I'm going to go ahead and solve this. Actually, you know what? I can do both ways with this one too, just to check. I'll first again do square root method. So here I'm going to add the 54 to both sides, and you have 6x squared is equal to 54. Now I'm going to go through and divide by 6, right? Multiplying by 6, divide by 6. So now x squared is equal to 9. But our answer is not 9, right? We now need to take the square root, cancel out our squared. And x is equal to not just 3, but positive negative 3. So that's why the answer is D. Now, let's say for those who maybe want to solve by factoring, right? So first off, do we have a GCF? Yes. I can factor out 6. So I can divide both terms by 6. So 6 times x squared minus 9 is equal to 0. Now notice we do have a difference of two perfect squares, right? So here I've got 6 times x plus 3 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. Then remember, whenever we have a constant, will that 6 ever equal 0? No. But now here's your x is equal to positive 3 and x is equal to negative 3. So we do get the same answer when solving by factoring. Last one, question number 10. Again, notice how we are solving for x and it's already equal to 0. So we're good to go there. So what numbers multiply to get us positive 32 and add to get you negative 12? Negative 8 and negative 4. So remember, right? Because when multiplying, two negatives make a positive and add to get you that negative 12. Now, is that it? Are we done? Or my answer is negative 8, negative 4? No, right? Because that's just the factored form. Remember, we're solving, right? Equal to 0. That means x minus 8 is equal to 0. X minus 4 is equal to 0. So again, solving for x, I'm going to add 8 to both sides, and x is equal to 8. I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and that's why you get positive 4, making your answer A. And then let's say for this last question, number 10, right? Maybe some of you solved by completing the square. So I'll go ahead now and also complete the square, and let's see if we get the same answer, A, +4 and +8. So remember, right, when completing the square, we need to have our x terms together. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 32 on both sides of the equation to move that over. So here we've got x squared minus 12x, right? I'm going to leave some space here to complete our square, is equal to -32. Now I'm going to go through and complete the square. So remember, right, to complete the square, we take our b. Well, what's our b? -12. We take b and we half it and square it. So half of -12 is -6. -6 squared, +36. Remember though, whatever we add to one side, you add to the other side of the equation. So now I can write my left side, right, as a perfect square. This becomes x minus 6 to the second power, because -6 times -6 is +36, right? And -6 plus -6 is -12. Then here, -32 plus 36 is +4. Now we can go through and solve, right? But I can't add 6 yet, right? Because it's inside of the parentheses. So to get rid of that, we have to get rid of our exponent. That's squared. So take the square root. Now I've got x minus 6 is equal to not just 2, right? But positive and -2. So when we're solving, we have our two equations. We have here, I'll write it below. We have x minus 6 is equal to +2, and x minus 6 is equal to -2, right? From our positive and -2. So when I solve here, I add 6 to both sides, and there's x is equal to 8. Here, when I add 6 to both sides, but now notice that's -2. -2 plus 6 is +4. So notice how, even when completing the square, you do get the same answer.